Is moving to Italy right for you? When you move to Italy, you'll likely go through something called the mirror phase, which is something that I personally went through 3 years ago before moving to Italy from California. Your environment that you're currently living in covers your pattern. And when you arrive in Italy, Italy absolutely, completely removes that cover. Now you're left with what you actually think, feel, and sometimes want. Sometimes the want will be very confusing, which is very uncomfortable when you expected to feel grateful, to feel like your entire life is going to change here in Italy. So look, don't worry. It is not over, and it was not over for me, and it's still not over. You're just in a situation that your old coping strategies cannot handle. So if you're thinking about coming to Italy, this is definitely something to think about. So let's get into it. What's painful is moving to Italy and realizing the move doesn't fix anything. And you end up realizing that what needs to be fixed in your life is internal. So you still feel confused, you might feel lonelier than ever, and you start doubting things, regretting things. You start thinking, did I make a mistake? What did I do with my life? And honestly, it's just, you're in a sort of psychological reset that really no one really warned you about. I idealized Italy before arriving, and I am okay to say that because I really want to help you, if you're thinking about Italy, how to break that idealization. I thought it would change my life for the better, and when it didn't automatically do that, I went into serious shock, like completely shock. And that includes culture shock as well. In the States, in California, I had a pretty meaningful life, and I had a life filled with hobbies and passions outside of my work. I was constantly searching for meaning, and I enjoyed my job. I worked in tech. I did a lot of hiking, and I wrote poetry, and I did a lot of those things that really was helping me seek meaning in myself. And I never thought that I would be in this situation where I come to Italy and everything is just shattered. I idealized Italy into a solution for this sort of restlessness that I didn't fully understand at the time. And when I arrived and the restlessness just didn't stop, it didn't leave, it showed up differently. And it showed up in different ways, like I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I was confused about what my purpose and meaning was. And it just sent me into this big spiral of sadness and confusion. Before arriving to Italy, I believed that I knew myself. Not 100%, but I did a lot of exploration. But the important thing is that self that I discovered was built inside an environment that supported it. And arriving in Italy, I'm in a completely new environment. So when I arrived, without my belongings, without my usual place, and even without my little fairy lights and my room and my bed, it really made me think, what am I really doing? What do I really want? What is my purpose? I have come to Italy. The happiness that I really wanted to experience just isn't fully here. What is going on? And no, I didn't give up. I didn't go home, which is very common. But what I realized is if you don't build the internal capacity before you come to Italy, or very fast after you arrive, you will struggle and you will live out of survival instead of actually living in Italy and growing the life that you really wanted to do in the first place. And some people go back, and it's not because it's bad, it's not because of the bureaucracy, it's not because they weren't ready, the language, it's because they weren't ready to meet themselves without that cover. So I'm going to give you an example of what happens if you don't change. And I personally have seen people that do not have the capacity and aren't able to change when they arrive. And what happens is you keep trying to make Italy match your fantasy that you've developed instead of adjusting yourself to fit the reality. You blame the bureaucracy, you blame the language, the fact that you can't make friends. You leave within a month and say that it's a failed experiment, and you end up wasting a lot of time and money. You just didn't have the tools, the proper tools. The mirror phase is uncomfortable. I've been through it and it is not fun. But it is also very functional. It shows you exactly where you are stuck, exactly where your patterns, your avoidance, and your unmet internal needs are finally able to be heard. And the key to surviving is adaptability. Adaptability is what makes this survivable. But adaptability only works if self-intimacy is beneath it. Because you can't adjust your behavior when you're in denial about what you're actually feeling. You can move to Italy and live here and create meaning and create a life here. But the most important thing is that you need to learn tools in order to actually thrive. And the first one is adaptability. The ability to adjust your behavior, expectations, and emotional state so that you can function inside reality instead of demanding that reality adjusts to match your expectation of it. Self-intimacy. The ability to stay with what you're actually feeling in your body and your mind without immediately trying to numb it, trying to get a distraction from it, and also trying to solve it immediately, or even performing around it so you don't actually have to sit with it. So we're gonna take a practice test together just so you can get an insight into where you are currently in your life. Go ahead and grab a notebook and pause the video if you need to. Question 1, what do I expect Italy to give me? What am I bringing that will change when my environment changes? What part of me will probably struggle when arriving in Italy? We are going to take a quick self-intimacy test to see where you are on that scale. What am I refusing to admit I need from this move? What will this move give me? What am I more afraid of? Going or staying? Is there more? Your job isn't to make Italy match the fantasy. Your job is to find out if you're adaptable and whether you can meet yourself with self-intimacy when the mirror shows up. That decides what happens next. Are you thinking about moving to Italy? Reply to me in the comments and let me know. I created a community just for this with guided prompts, journals, and also weekly calls with me to really gauge and understand, is Italy right for you, and how you can use the move to Italy as a huge transformation and a very positive thing, and not end up burning out and turning around back home. Remember to subscribe and like the video. Ciao!